Lover's Moon, a novel by Mark Leslie and Julie Strauss. Read by the authors. Wednesday, October 12th, 2011.
Chapter 16. Gail. The sounds of my feet on the sidewalk faded away as I cut over the 79th Street transverse. When I did this run with Ben, we liked to circle the north side of the Great Lawn, but today I was trying to stay as far as possible from any thoughts of him, so I veered right. It was a slightly longer route, but in my heart I knew I could still beat him easily if he was here. Nothing made me faster than being annoyed. After all this time of texting, calling, and pleading, I'd finally gotten my brother to agree to a dinner out with Michael and me. And then Michael canceled. Michael fucking canceled. My heart pounded hard in my ears and I jacked up my speed again until the screaming in my lungs almost drowned out the sound of my brain going haywire. Michael fucking canceled. Now I would have to call my brother and explain that the dinner I had practically begged him on my knees to come to was not going to happen because the boyfriend he hated had bailed out. Again. The palatial facade of the Met loomed ahead of me, and I pounded harder until I thought my legs had caught on fire, and then I ran even faster for the final block. Must outrun the thoughts. I made it to 85th, completing my loop, and bent over double with my hands on my waist, gasping for breath. Those people who say they hate running can't possibly understand how well it obliterates emotion. If I had anything left in me, I'd go another 10 just to continue avoiding all these hideous feelings. When I could finally stand upright again, I sauntered back down the block to cool off and catch my breath. Crowds of tourists had taken up their spots on the steps of the Met's entrance, and I was certain I had run so fast that they only saw the blur of my red shorts as I bounded past them. They probably felt a pop in their ears, a breeze on their cheeks. Maybe they picked up on the panic I was sweating out of every pore in my body. Still honey-scented because every moment I wasn't with Michael was spent in our shop. The museum guards would notice the scorch marks on the pavement that weren't there only minutes before. They would all think they'd seen Superwoman. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's gullible Gail. Faster than a speeding lie, more powerful than a sexual obsession, able to leap to wild conclusions in a single bound. Oh, except my so-called boyfriend doesn't like Superman. Only regular guys who visit their family in Canada out of the blue. After all these months of Michael being concerned about my relationship with my brother, worrying that he was coming between siblings, fretting that I wasn't taking my brother seriously enough, after all that, Michael was visiting his family. He needed to go north the minute he had the chance to help me fix things. My brother still hadn't explained his bizarre comment from way back in July. I didn't know if the grave danger he'd mentioned meant that I'd spent more time with my vibrator than a woman with a steady boyfriend ought to, but if so, he was right. What could possibly be happening in Canada that Michael couldn't do in New York City? Nothing happens anywhere in the world that doesn't happen in Manhattan. Certainly nothing that has to happen tonight. We have entire restaurants dedicated to poutine, for God's sake. But suddenly Michael Andrews is homesick? On the very night he's supposed to start a relationship with the one family member I want him to like? It made no sense at all. The problem was, Michael never seemed to have anything to do until suddenly he did. He always had these emergencies, and then he disappeared for days with no logical explanation. He was going to a writer's conference or doing a media blitz or something that sounded totally legit, but he never bothered telling me until the last minute. And then he was impossible to reach while he was gone. I was starting to think I was losing my mind. Not to mention, our sex life was a roller coaster. Usually, the man was like a hurricane in the bedroom. But when he returned from one of his trips, he was less of a storm and more of a stuffed animal. He only wanted to make out on the couch or cuddle and watch a movie. which was great. Of course, I could happily make out with him all day. But once I noticed that specific change in him always coordinated with his trips, I couldn't get it out of my head. Did he have a secret family? Was he getting super horny thinking about his wife? And then by the time he got back to me, his side chick, he'd used up all that energy? I couldn't think of other reasons. I had paced back and forth in front of the museum 3 times and still hadn't caught my breath. A woman with dark eyes watched me pace, and I had a sudden urge to ask her for help. I tried to imagine how I would explain my situation. I could say, my current boyfriend. Wait, is he even my boyfriend? I don't know. We have not used that word yet. My lover? My lover? Gross. My sex partner? Let's just go with that. My sex partner, who I happen to like for way more than sex, is great when he's around. But being around seems to be really hard for him. That's what she said, the woman would reply. At least it was how I would want her to reply. I continued the imaginary conversation. Even if we don't work out as a couple, his publisher is paying me a boatload of money to keep him writing. Frankly, that cash flow is the only reason my business is staying afloat these days. I have to stay on his good side, at least until his book is finished. Don't I? Talking to a stranger in my head was useless. It was time to have a heart-to-heart with Michael. Time to ask him for the truth. This did not have to be so difficult. Wouldn't everyone be so proud of me for addressing things head-on? I pulled my phone out of the pocket of my shorts and called him. Michael's outgoing message wasn't anything particularly special.
Hey there. You've reached Michael Andrews. I can't answer the phone right now. Please leave a message, and I'll get back to you.
But the sound of his voice asking me to leave a message brought tears to my eyes. Why couldn't he be here with me? Why did I feel so lonely for him? Hey, it's me, I said, breathing deeply to steady myself. You really hurt me when you canceled tonight. You hurt my brother. I don't want to think you're up to no good, Andrews, but I kind of can't stop myself. I really want to talk to you. I care about you a lot, but I've been down this path before. Lies and resentments. You know about all of it. Sometimes it feels like I know nothing about you. But I want to, Andrews. We have a really good thing here. Whatever you're doing, I can handle it if you just tell me the truth. Please, can we just talk? Will you call me? I don't care what time it is. Just call me. I want to fix this. I want you. I was getting to the babbling incoherently stage of the call, so I hung up and put my phone away. That was all I could do. He would either call or he wouldn't. I didn't have any control over his response, but at least I'd have a response. With any luck, he'd call me and say, I am terrible at keeping a calendar. Let's go over this together so it doesn't happen again. Worst case scenario, he'd gaslight me into thinking that I was losing my mind or that I was a possessive bitch. Well, I suppose the absolute worst case scenario was that he did have a secret family somewhere else. But somehow, I knew in my heart that couldn't be true. Something was going on, but I just couldn't see him deceiving me to that extent. Michael Andrews might be a lot of things, but it would shock me to my core if he turned out to be a cheater. Not because I was so special, but because I honestly don't think he could bear the rudeness of it. It was totally against his nature. Unless maybe I didn't understand his nature at all? I turned down his street to catch the subway and was just starting to relax a bit. The run had been a good idea. Every time I got in my head, I could work it all out if I just moved my body. This was a problem with a simple solution. For once in my life, I was in a healthy, if somewhat confusing, relationship with a mature man. I could talk to him. We would figure this out, and I'd get the God of Thunder back in my bed in no time. After all the fury of the day, my shoulders finally relaxed. And then I saw him. Michael, in front of his building, embracing a woman with a short pixie haircut. Not just embracing her, they were practically tearing each other's clothes off. It looked almost violent. In an instant, a dozen puzzle pieces clicked into place. This woman had been in my store more than once. She had creeped me out when she asked where I was going with Michael. She'd been the one who stomped on our blanket at the park. I remembered him getting freaked out that night when he said he saw someone, and then everything went wrong when we went to bed that night. I gaped at them for what felt like hours, but was only seconds. The woman was clawing at him like an animal, and Michael wasn't even moving. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beat my hands to a bloody pulp against his building. I wanted to run over him with a car. I wanted to rip him apart with my teeth. Instead, I turned and ran, faster than I've ever run before. He is a fucking monster.
You've been listening to Lover's Moon, a paranormal romantic comedy by Mark Leslie and Julie Strauss. Read by the authors. Lover's Moon is book 5 in the Canadian Werewolf Series, published by Stark Publishing and available in print, ebook, and audiobook. The music used in this production, Waltz Primordial by Kevin MacLeod featuring Alexander Nakarada, was licensed via Incomptech.com and is copyrighted by Kevin MacLeod.